Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I've been advertised or announced that I'll give a Srimad Bhagavatam class. As there's no manifest volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam in front of me, I'll recite the first verse of the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yaton Vyaditiratas Charte Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaviye Mohyanti Yat Suryaha Tejo Vari Mridang Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyang Parang Dhimahi. Having said that, I can speak on anything I like, as long as it's within the subject of Krishna consciousness. Because everything's in there, in summary. Yeah, now we can have the Bhagavatam literally in our hands. Amalakasta. Like having an amala fruit in your hand, almost literally. You can have the whole Bhagavatam in your hand in the smartphone or iPhone or whatever it is. That's why nowadays often you don't have to write the verse on the board or any such thing, because Srila Prabhupada, of course, his major life work was what? Spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. His major endeavor among the many endeavors he did under the umbrella of that endeavor was presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam with commentary in English. And he emphasized so much on the distribution of the books and the reading of these books by his disciples. Of course, traditionally, the method of receiving the Bhagavatam was by oral reception, by hearing rather than reading. Here in Kerala, as far as I know, the tradition is more to hear the Narayaniyam. Is it?
Here, yeah, Saptaham, Bhagavad Saptaham, Auxilius Narayaniyam.
Yeah, that's considered to be the local version of the Bhagavatam. Is it?
No, they do both.
They do both. All right. Now this temple being open today, officially, is being designated as South Vrindavan. But where is South in relation to Vrindavan? You may say, yeah, well, it's south. Kerala's south of Uttar Pradesh and Vrindavan's in Uttar Pradesh. Yeah, everything's south in relation to Vrindavan. Delhi's south of Vrindavan? Is that right? Kashmir is south of Vrindavan? Is that correct? No. Well, Vrindavan's on top of everything. Just like if we accept the idea that there's a North Pole, then everything's south of the North Pole. If you're at the North Pole, there's nowhere more north to go. I don't know about in your language, probably it's the same, but at least if you see in a Bengali to English dictionary, you'll see, or English to Bengali, you'll see the North Pole is written as Uttara Meru, and the South Pole is Dakshin Meru. Probably it's the same in Malayalam. Is it?
I don't know the deep astrological, but
what do you call the North Pole in Malayalam?
Dhruva Nakshatra.
Dhruva Nakshatra is a different concept altogether. No, that's the North. That's the North. That's the North Star. North Pole. North Pole.
They say Uttara Dhruvam. It's not very popular, but some of them say Uttara Dhruvam.
Uttara Dhruvam. Well, that's a different concept altogether. Anyway, the idea is that there's nothing above Vrindavan. If you say there's South Vrindavan, everything's south, everything's below. Concept?
Yeah.
Say it in Malayalam. Dharana. Dharana, must be dharana, no?
Sorry.
Where is Vrindavan? Well, Vrindavan, if we go out of this world, out through all the coverings of the universe, through the beyond the coverings of the universe, through the causal ocean, cross the Viraja river, go through the Brahmajyoti, beyond Vaikuntha, beyond Ayodhya, beyond Dwarka, beyond Mathura, then we can come to Vrindavan. It's a long way. Long, long way. If you can build a rocket ship, you can't go there. Pantastu koti shatavatsara sambragam yo vayora tapi manaso muni pungavanam sopyasti yat prabhati simnya vinchintya tatve govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The best of the munis, the best of the yogis, moving at the mind speed for many millions of years, can hardly reach the tip of the lotus toe, the tip of the toe of the lotus feet of Govinda. So that Goloka planet, Vrindavan, is very far away, beyond the reach of rockets, beyond the reach of yogis. But that same Brahma Samhita, same Brahma, informs us that where is Krishna? Goloka eva nivasatya khilatma bhuta. He's in Goloka, in that far, far away planet, and he's also in the heart of every living being. And even though the great munis, Muni Pungava, they can hardly reach the tip of the lotus feet of Govinda, but for the pure devotees, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santah Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yang Shyama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajam. No, I didn't translate it yet. No, I'm going to translate it a little different from the book translation. So the yogis, they can't even conceive of Vrindavan. They can't reach there because their attempt is ultimately material. But the pure devotees, they have some spiritual eye balm that's called prema, and by which you rub that on the eye, then you can see everything clearly. Then you can see Vrindavan everywhere. You can see Krishna in your heart, and you can see Vrindavan everywhere. Actually, we're all meant for living in Vrindavan. But we're in illusion. And we think, I am living in Kerala, or I am living in Bahrain. How can we reach Vrindavan? The journey begins with hearing. I began this short talk by saying that the tradition is to hear Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is meant for taking us on an easy journey to other planets. The first book that Srila Prabhupada published, a booklet, was Easy Journey to Other Planets. That journey begins with hearing. Actually, any journey begins with hearing. Many of you have come from Bahrain to be here today. So before you went to Bahrain, many of you went maybe 25, 30 or maybe more years ago. Before you had to hear about that place. Why did you go? Here in Kerala there's enough food. Practically you don't need to do much to live here. You don't need to protect against the cold because there's no cold ever. Rain is there. Some protection from rain is needed. Even without farming, if you live in the jungle, then you'll find so many jackfruit trees are growing and banana trees, all kinds of chiku, sapota, and all kinds of things. Just by themselves they're growing. You can live. So why did you go to the place where practically nothing grows, even if you try to get it to grow? You heard that place is better than here. Then a desire grew within your heart. And then you made arrangements and you went there. And ultimately you found something better, Krishna consciousness, which is here in the culture of Kerala, of course. Probably, more than this whole land of Bharat is the sacred land of spiritual culture. Yeah, but this, in Kerala, you find in different places. Just like in Bengal, there's also Krishna worship, but there's also very strong worship of Shakti, Durga. Durga Kali in Bengal.
Kali, Durga.
In Maharashtra there's a strong Vaishnav culture, but there's also a strong culture of worship of Ganesh. But here in Kerala, at least among the Hindus, the dominant culture is just your Guru Vairappan. And we find that, I don't know now, but at least until recently, mostly, or many of the families, they gave the boy's name, Gopinath, Murlidhar, Venugopal, names like this. Pitambara, the Vrindavan names of Krishna. Pitambaram, yeah. Of course, also Manikandan is also quite common name. But I think that became popular, very popular more recently. It's not the old culture. And of course, the influence here of Shankaracharya is also very strong. So, definitely Kerala has a very strong spiritual culture. But somehow many of you found or rediscovered that culture via Bahrain. So how did you find out about it there? By hearing? Hearing comes first. Kirtan is most important, in Kali Yuga especially, among the processes of bhakti. But Shravan comes first. Shravana, Kirtana. There's no Kirtan without Shravan. Even to know that we should do Kirtan, one has to hear about it. So the aim is to bring Vrindavan here. Srila Prabhupada's aim was to bring Vrindavan everywhere. Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan, but he didn't leave because wherever he went, he brought Vrindavan. And the temples that Srila Prabhupada established, they were meant for reproducing Vrindavan. Vrindavan means that atmosphere where there is no envy. The root, or the basic principle underlying material existence is envy of Krishna. And that expands to envy, dislike, distrust of all living beings. Vrindavan is the atmosphere of love. Specifically, the object of love is Krishna. Prema, we usually use the word prema in relationship to Krishna. It might not be in Malayalam, but it's good because that's the specific word that are used in our Gauriya Shastras. So, for love you can translate it, probably the word is sneha in Malayalam, but better to use the word prema because that's the Shastric term. I mean, we're talking about Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita, like that. Sneha is one level of prema, actually. There's in the modern Indian languages, there's so many words can be used, but we have our specific words are used with specific usages by our acharyas with specific meanings. So it's good to use those words. So it is very ambitious, no doubt, to attempt to bring the atmosphere of non-envy and of pure love to this world in Kali Yuga especially. So you use several words. So you use several words for envy, so that you make sure you got one of them right. Asuya, Matsarya, what else is there? Irshya. These are all words. Dvesha. Just as there are many words for love, there are many words for just the opposite also. The whole atmosphere in Kali Yuga is very, very disturbed. And in Vrindavan, there should be no disturbance. The Mayavadis, they think of spiritual perfection of being a situation of no disturbance. They think Shanti. We have to get Shanti. Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. They think that's to be free from all disturbance and just everything will be peaceful. just relax. No more problems. Aram karo. Vishram karo. But devotees, they want to go to Vrindavan, the land of love, the land of prema. Love means activity. Karya kalapam. There's different words can be used. Love doesn't just mean looking at someone and saying, I love you. There is activity. The temple is an opportunity to perform many activities in the service of Krishna. Cooking, cleaning, singing, dancing. Maybe some legal matters also, managing, receiving funds and allotting funds. So in activity with many people involved, then there won't always be agreement. So there may be many people who love Krishna and they come together to serve Krishna, but there may be disagreement also. For instance, there may, just as an example, there may be someone has given a big donation and one person will say, oh, we should use that to pay off all the pending bills, and someone will say, no, let's buy a new crown for the Lord. There may be disagreement. And then again it becomes like the material world again, disagreement, argument. So the Mayavadis conclude that in hate there is disturbance, in envy there is disturbance, in love there is disturbance. So just forget everything and just go to zero, shanti. So the devotees, they enter the land of love knowing that there will very likely be disagreements also. But the disagreement that comes about on the basis of love, that increases the love. Whereas the disagreement that comes about on the basis of envy, that increases envy. And the difference should be palpable. That means when we enter a temple, we should feel the spiritual atmosphere. When we enter the temple, we should feel the spiritual atmosphere. That means that all the devotees are cooperating to serve Krishna, and that creates an atmosphere of love of Krishna. So that atmosphere of love, that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to bring. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally blessed this land, well, the whole of Kerala pretty much, especially the coastal area. From the very beginning it was blessed. It came into being by Parashuram Bhagavan. Parashuram Bhagavan brought this land into being. So the geologists, they might disagree. We don't care. They can say whatever they like. So Parashuram, he brought this land into being. Agastya, he's also Malayali, I guess so. Well, he came from the north, but he lives one of his ashrams. And Balaram, he traveled here. And Krishna came here. And Nityananda came. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Now I have a question. I'm sure you must have thought about this. I never got the answer. Maybe some of you got the answer. Now in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Tiruvananthapuram, Ananta Padmanabha temple. And he visited the Janardhan temple, which is at Varkala. And very importantly, he visited the Adi Keshava temple, which is at Tiruvata. Very importantly, because there he received the Brahma Samhita, chapter 5. And he visited the Agastya Parvat, which is identified as being in Kerala, and the Panchapsara Kunda, which is identified as being in Kerala.
Panchapsara Kunda is in Karnataka, I think.
Which other places are mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visiting? That's just off the top of my head.
But
Janardhan, the places I mentioned, that I'm just wondering why it's not mentioned the Guru Vairapa.
I had a talk with Bhadracharu Prabhu, and he says there is no. He says some other Chambu.
Because the temple was prominent at that time also.
Gauranga Chambu or somewhere it is mentioned, I think. Gauranga Chambu is there? Gauranga Chambu?
Gauranga Champu, maybe, but not in Chaitanya. Somehow or other it's not there in Chaitanya.
It's not there in Chaitanya Ramda.
Somehow or other it's not there. Anyway, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed this land. Gaura Mara Jaishabasthane Karala Brahmana Range Shaishabasthana Heribawami Pranay Bhakata Sange. Bhaktivinoda Thakur expresses the desire that my Gaura, he says my Gaura, all the places which he very happily visited, he says, I desire to see all those places in the company of loving devotees.
What devotees? Devotees?
Loving devotees. Pranay bhakta. Well, actually in this word it's pranaya. So this whole land of Bharatavarsha is blessed by so many rishis, munis. The Supreme Lord himself in various forms has, by touching their lotus feet, has made this land what it is. But by the influence of Kali Yuga, now in Kerala, I probably majority of the population are cow eaters. Probably. Is it? Because that means Muslims and Christians are almost 50%, and many Hindus are also eating beef, more than in any other state. So to bring Vrindavan here is a very ambitious project. How is that to be done? You have to bring the atmosphere of the spiritual world by being fully centered on Krishna. Fully centered on Krishna, fully focused. Vrindavan is the land where no one acts or thinks or does anything without, the only motive is to please Krishna. Krishna te kila cheshta. And that atmosphere is to be spread also. Srila Prabhupada envisaged his temples as being places from which the devotees went out and preached, particularly by distributing his books. So this, some general idea of Krishna consciousness is strongly there in the Hindu culture of Kerala. But there's no proper idea of who is Krishna and what is Vrindavan. But people can take to it. Ultimately, everyone wants to live in Vrindavan. Who would not want to live in Vrindavan? If we tell people there's a perfect place where Katha Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivangshi Priyasaki, where the talking is singing, the walking is dancing, and there's always the very dear flute sound. Who will not want to go? Everyone is united in love of Krishna, and they love each other also. But even if we offer that, most people won't want to come because they're envious of Krishna. They think that, what about me? Why is everyone centering on Krishna? So this temple with the atmosphere of Vrindavan, that should be so impressive that people want to be part of it. Impressive, not exact. I mean, we can impress with big buildings and technological gadgets and so on, but the real impressive thing is how pure are the devotees, actually pure, with love in their hearts. Then people will want to be part of that. That was my experience when I first came to a temple of Krishna in this lifetime. I could immediately understand that the devotees, that was the ISKCON center just outside London in England, devotees were so happy. It wasn't material happiness, because they lived very simply. It was very cold and snowing outside, and there was no heating because there's no money for heating. So they're living a very austere life. And due to snow and other factors, I was compelled to stay overnight, although I hadn't planned to. So I got up before 4 o'clock in the morning, which I'd never imagined, and then sent to the shower, which I'd also never imagined, that you get up and take a shower. Especially it was freezing cold. If you live in Kerala and Bahrain, you don't know what it means to live cold. You don't know what it means. Where are you from in America? New York. You know what cold means. Yeah. So anyway, I thought, well, I don't know what to think. But then when I came to the Mangalarti at 4:30 and I saw everyone dancing, and I thought, they do this every day for love of God. This is real. So that can't be faked. Abhinayam. You can't fake it. So that atmosphere of Vrindavan, that comes by dedication to Krishna. Yes, that's the word. Samarpan. Actual Atma Samarpan. Actual dedication. Of course, we can't expect everyone to come here. So we should go out and distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. From what I understand, probably more than in any other area or state of India, people of Kerala are very interested in the philosophy of Prabhupada's books. Generally, when we meet people from Kerala, they say we're distributing books on the trains, or what you say to them might not make much difference. They'll look at the book, they'll read a little bit, and then they'll decide whether or not to buy it. And usually they buy it because they see there's some good philosophy there. So they want some good philosophy. They'll get it in Prabhupada's books. They will get it in Prabhupada's books. So I can finish this short talk with the way I started it. In the whole world, in the whole universe, you won't find any higher concept than that which is given in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So enlighten these people. Enlighten these people. Prabodham.
Prabodham.
Much better than Marxist philosophy. That's another great influence in Kerala. Is this philosophy. Janmadhyasya yaton vyaditaratas chartheshvapignya swarat tene brahma hridaya adi kave muhyanti yat suryaha tejo vari mridang yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mersha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam parang dhimahi. For the translation of this verse and the meaning, read all Bhagavatam. Yeah, there's one verse, the whole Bhagavatam is summarized. You read the first verse and then read all the rest. And then when you've read all the rest, you come back to the first verse and realize, oh, I just read the whole Bhagavatam, it's here in the first verse. Actually, the first 3 verses of Bhagavatam, they give what is the point of Bhagavatam. Very importantly, the first verse gives the tattva. What is the subject here? Subject of Bhagavatam is Bhagavan. And third verse, the second verse says, what is here you won't get anywhere else in the Vedas. And what is that? The third verse, Pibata Bhagavata Rasanalayam. This is the Bhakti Rasa. So read Prabhupada's books. The tattva is there also. Don't try to get the rasa without the tattva jnana. Don't try to get the rasa without the tattva jnana. Oh. Even when we say tattva jnana, mostly people think there's some impersonalistic conception comes in their mind. So please study Srila Prabhupada's books and understand that tattva jnana means Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. Means Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. You should, all of you read Prabhupada's books, read the shlokas also, the original Sanskrit. It will help you to understand better. Because in your language, all the words are mixed up with Mayavadi concepts. When we speak of Tattva Gyan, we're not speaking of anything impersonal. That means, in summary, Sambandha Gyan, Abhidaya, prayojana, these are all technical terms. You can learn from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah, Chaitanya, specifically Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Thank you very much for translating.
His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj ki.
Yeah, are there any questions? Yeah. By the way, I have a bookstore with my books just here at the back and outside here. Yeah, on Srila Prabhupada's order, I'm writing books. So please try to pick some up on your way out. But question, please. I'll announce about the books just in a few minutes. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a wonderful class. Maharaj,
it's become a formality to say that now. It was nice when it was started to do, but it's become a formality. But I guess from you it's sincere. But many people just say it because it's a formality. That's the way I say it. Anyway, go on.
Maharaj, my question is, why did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, speak on this verse, Bhagavatam 111, in Radhakund?
Why did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur speak on this first verse of Bhagavatam in Radhakund? I'm not aware that he specifically did so. You can answer the question. In Dhaka, in 1 year, during the whole of Kartik, he spent the whole of Kartik in Dhaka, in East Bengal, and he spoke every day on this verse, giving different understandings each day. So that would have been at least 60 hours of lecture on this verse. And famously, one time at Radha Kund, he spoke on the Upanishads.
Spoke only?
Upanishads. So I think you're getting a bit mixed up there. Is it? He may have spoken on that also. Okay. All right. You'd like to announce the books then? Another question? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Is reading Prabhupada books is equivalent to hearing?
Is reading Srila Prabhupada's books equivalent to hearing? Yeah, well, reading is an extension of the hearing process. Abhivyakti. Generally nowadays it's thought that writing means the beginning of civilization. That people previously who didn't write and read, they weren't civilized. But the Vedic historical understanding is that when people became so stupid that they couldn't remember just by hearing, then writing became essential. So the actual process is hearing. But reading Srila Prabhupada's books is essential because we get the message of Godhead as it is for sure in Prabhupada's books. We also require to hear that being explained.
Hear and explain?
We need to hear that being explained. But we might not have the full confidence that the person who is explaining it has understood it exactly as Srila Prabhupada wanted to present it. So both are required. Read Prabhupada's books and hear them explained by persons who explain in the same way. How can you know for sure in the beginning when you don't know exactly what's what? Well, that will depend on luck. Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavanji. When a lucky person gets the Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, a lucky person gets the right connection. If you get Prabhupada's books, you're getting the right thing for sure. Okay, Gifted. Do you want to ask a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm telling in Malayalam. Okay.
She asked, the Krishna is showing Vishwarupa to Arjun. She wants to know the duration exactly.
7 minutes, 42 seconds, and 21 degrees, approximately.
21?
All right, then. You can announce. You announce.
Holiness Bhakti Vikasa Maharaj ki.